Hey guys, welcome back to another quick how-to. And today I'll be teaching you on how to color grade in CapCut, and I'll be showing you techniques on how to do the color grading. So first, you have to import your clip right here or your video and drag this one over here. Now let us talk about the temperature, the saturation, and the hue of the video. Now to do that, just click on the video, and here from the top, just click on the adjustment. And when you scroll down a little bit, you'd be able to see these three options right here. So we'll be discussing the purpose of the temperature, the hue, and the saturation. For temp or temperature, here you can see that in this section we have color blue and color yellow right at the end of the adjustment bar. Okay, so you can also adjust the number of the temperature using the arrows. Now at the end of the video you can see the blue color and the yellow color. So when you drag this one to the yellow section or to the blue section, you can see that your clip changed colors. Okay, so when you want that your clip to be more yellowish or you want your clip to be more blue, so you can just drag this one to your right or to your left. So I want my clip to be blue or have a darker color of blue, so I will then just going to drag this one over here. Okay, so you can see the difference of the clip when we first change the color. Okay, so you can adjust this according to your likes. So maybe I'll adjust this one just a little bit. Okay, so after that, when you finally found the best color temp for your video or for your clip, so you can now proceed to the next one, which is the hue. So the purpose of this one is when you drag this to your right, okay, your clip or your video will become more purple or has a magenta color. So let's try this one to drag into your right. Okay, now you can see the difference, right? Okay, so just try to adjust the hue color accordingly. So it'll be depending on your likes if what you want to be the result of your video. Okay, so let's try to drag this to the left. And when you do that, your clip or your video will become greener. Okay, so as you can see here, now you can see the difference when I drag this to my left. The video or the clip has now a green color, so you can adjust this one right here accordingly, so it will be depending on the result that you want to achieve. Now let's move on to the saturation. So the purpose of this one is to make your video or your clip more vibrant. So when you drag this to your right or to your left, the color will change. So when you drag this to your right, you can see that the clip or the video become more vibrant. Okay, so let's try to drag this one to our left and see the difference. Okay, so watch it closely and remember the color before I drag this to my left. Okay, so as you can see, the color disappears and it changed the video to a black and white something. Okay, so I want this clip or this video to be more vibrant, so therefore I have to drag this to my right, and when I click on it, you can see that the video or the clip has a very appealing and more vibrant color. Okay, so after finalizing everything, all you have to do is to go back here and then save your clip. But if you want to continue editing and making your video more appealing, let's proceed to the HSL at the top. And here you can see the different colors, the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the sky blue, and the magenta and the purple. Okay, so when you want to go ahead and click on the red or the first color, okay, and when you adjust this to your right, you can see that your clip will become more orange since beside the red is the orange, and on the left side you can see that it has violet or the magenta or purple. I don't know what is that exactly, but the color of your chosen color will be depending on the colors that is on the left and on the right. So when you go to your right, the video or the clip will become orange, and will go to your left, your video become more violet. So let's go to the saturation, so you can adjust this one as well until you can see the final output or the output that you want to achieve. Okay, so just go to the saturation and then go to the brightness. So I want this to stay as is, and let's go to the orange section. So when you go to your right, it become yellow, and you go to your left and it will become red. Okay, so you can see here the pattern, right? It will depend on the colors beside your chosen color. Okay, so you just adjust this hue, saturation, and brightness as well. So you just have to adjust this one by one until you can see what really color you want to achieve with your clip. So let's just continue editing. So after that, let's proceed to yellow. And then when you drag this to your right, it will become green. And when you drag this to your left, it will become orange. Okay, I hope you understand the pattern so you'd be able to determine the exact mixture of the grading. Okay, so let us adjust the saturation, and as you can see, you have now a very detailed clip or video. So let's continue, let's proceed to green. Okay, so if you think you don't have to adjust anything right here, so you can leave everything as it is and proceed to the next color. So I'll just keep on adjusting everything so you'll be able to see the difference to the sky blue. So I want the color of the water to be more dark. So I proceed to the right. For the saturation, I want it to stay as vibrant as possible. And for the brightness, I want this to be more darker. Okay, so let us maintain the color blue or the dark blue. Okay, so since we are editing a clip that is underwater. So I'll just continue to adjust everything right here until we proceed to the last color. Okay, and then after that, let's try to view this. And now you can see the detailed color of your clip or your video. So now I'll be showing you on how I did edit or change the color of the right side watermelon compared to the first one or at the left side. So if you want to achieve this one, just have to follow this tutorial. So here you just have to drag the clip or the video right here, and when you do that and click on the video, you'd be able to change the ratio. So let's try to edit this one right now. So we just click on the clip, and then when you go ahead at the top, you'd be able to see the video, audio, speed, animation. So just click on the adjustment. So since I already told you, I already did a guide on how to use this one. Let us now apply those knowledge to make this video or this clip more appealing. So I want this watermelon to be more appealing or more juicy. So in order to do that, you just have to go ahead in the first color and adjust it accordingly. So here for the hue, I don't think I need to adjust this. I'll proceed to the saturation. Okay, so when I drag this to my right, you can see that the color of the watermelon change. And when I drag this to my left, then the color of the watermelon become pale, right? So I want this to be red as possible. And when you proceed to the brightness, you can see that when I go to my right or left, the color change. So maybe I want this to be more darker, and let's proceed to the next color. And here, when you go to your left, you can see that the clip or the whole video change color. Okay, so I want this to be vibrant as possible. So let's proceed to the saturation, then adjust everything right here. So I want this to be colorful as possible. Okay, and let's proceed to the brightness. So I want this to be a little bit dark. And now let's proceed to the yellow. Okay, so as you can see, when you go to your right, you can see that the green color become more bold or visible in your screen. So I want that the color green will be emphasized in this video, so I'm just going to drag this to my right. Okay, and then for the saturation, I want this to stay vibrant as possible. So I'm just going to drag this just a little bit, and for the brightness, you can just leave it as it is and proceed to the next color, and then adjust it accordingly. So let's proceed to the next color and go ahead and change the saturation, the hue, and the brightness. And so as you can see, I'm just playing with the colors to see the perfect color for this clip. Okay, so I adjust this right here. I want this to be detailed as possible as well. And go to the sky blue section. In this one, I want to specify the background. I mean the background color or the color of the sea. So maybe just a little bit of dark blue right here. Okay. And for the brightness, maybe just like this. And for the next color, I just want this to be simple as possible so that the watermelon will be the highlight for this clip. And then after that, let's proceed to the brightness and then go to the next color. So if you think that you don't have to change anything right here, so you can just leave it as it is. And then let's just finish adjusting the rest of the color for you to see. And then after adjusting everything right here, you'd be able to see now the difference. So let's try to view our final output for this clip. So just click on this icon right here. And here is the final output for our watermelon. So you can clearly see the difference of the two clips. The other one has more color and more appealing and more juicy. So now let us talk about the lightness. So here we'll be covering up about the brightness, the contrast, the highlight, the shadow, and the illumination. So we are going to talk about, and I'm going to show you demonstration of what would be the purpose of this lightness from brightness, contrast, highlight, shadow, and of course the illumination. So first, let us talk about the brightness. So brightness, it makes the video brighter or darker. So see for example right here, so you can see the difference of the two sample. Now I'm going to show you how that I make this one. So here in the brightness, here if you move it into your left, the video or this clip right here will become darker. And if we are going to move this to our right, then the video will be much more bright. Okay, so let's try to move it to our right. So as you can see, the video or the clip become brighter, and if we try to drag this cursor to our left, then the video or the clip will become darker. So that is the purpose of the brightness, to make the video darker or brighter. Okay, so you just have to adjust it according to your want, if what kind of mode do you want to achieve. Okay, now let's talk about the contrast. So higher contrast makes the differences between light and dark colors more visible. So see for example right here, so the colors in your video contrast with each other and it will stand out from each other. Or if you lower it, then the colors will blend together. So if you lower the contrast, that means the difference between the bright and the dark colors are less noticeable and the colors becomes faded and the colors kind of blend together. And if we increase the contrast all the way up, we can see that there's a huge difference between the bright and the dark spots, so it becomes very noticeable. That's why it's contrast. So the higher the contrast, the more obvious the light and dark colors will contrast. Okay, so for example right here, when you go to your left, then you can obviously see the faded color or the smoky effects. So when you go to your right, then the contrast will be more noticeable. So next, let's talk about the highlight. So a lower highlight makes the brightest part of the video darker. So right here, if we lower the highlight of the video, you can see that the bright parts of the video will become darker. And if we increase the highlights, it's going to make bright part of your video even brighter. So if we have highlight this and it's going to make the bright parts darker like this, so basically the whole video looks dark. And the other hand, if we increase the highlights, it's going to make the bright parts of the video even brighter. So just try to adjust the highlight if you want to increase the highlight or you want to decrease it up to -50, and then you can see the huge difference of the two. Okay, so just have to adjust it according to your need, and if you think it's okay now, or it's better to have this kind of highlight, then I can say that. Now let's go to the next one, the shadows. It makes the darkest parts of the video even brighter or darker. So basically the shadow is the opposite of the highlight. Okay. So here, if we try to increase the shadow, it will make the dark parts of your video brighter. Okay, so see for example right here. So when we try to increase it, you can see that the dark parts of the video become brighter. And if we try to drag this cursor to our left, then the dark parts of the video will become more darker. Okay, so as you can see that this are the dark parts of the video, and when we go to our left, it became more darker. So that is the purpose of the shadow. So the more you adjust it to your right, then the dark part of the video will become brighter, and when you drag this to your left, then the dark parts of the video become more dark. Okay, so next one is the illumination. So illumination makes the overall lighting of your video brighter or darker. So here is the example comparison of the two. So right here, if we try to drag the cursor to our right, it'll make the whole lighting of the video even brighter. Okay, so let's try to do that. Let's drag this cursor to our right. So as you can see, the whole lighting of the video or the clip became even brighter. So if we try to drag the cursor to our left, it will make the overall lighting of the video even darker. So if you want to make the whole lighting of your video brighter, so just go to your right. And if you want to make the whole lighting of your video darker, just go to your left. Okay, so let's try to do that and then adjust everything here. And then after finalizing the result, you can just save your changes. Okay, so just try this one and you'll be able to see the number of your effects. Okay, so now that we are done talking about the lightness, let us proceed to the effects. We have sharpen, particles, fade, and vignette. So the first one is the sharpen. So it makes the edges and details more distinct and crisp. Okay, so here is an example comparison of the two. Okay, so when we try to zoom it in, we can see that the edges is more sharp than the other. Okay, so to do that, you just have to drag the cursor to your right. So the more you drag it to your right until the very end of the cursor, then you'd be able to see that the details or the sharpen is pretty much obvious for the fish. Okay, so here you can see that the edges is very sharp. So obviously you can see the difference of the two clips right here. So now if you want to make the edges less sharp, so you just have to drag to your left. Okay, so as you can see, the edges becomes more soft right now since I drag the cursor to my left. Okay, so for the next one, the particles, it makes the video greenier or speckled. So here is an example of the particles. So on the right side, you can see that the particles are obvious and the other one is not. Okay, so to do that, all you have to do is to drag the cursor to your right. So the more you drag the cursor to your right, then the obvious the particles will be. Okay, so you can see the difference. So let's zoom it in so you'd be able to see the particles in the water. Okay, so right here, these are the particles of your clip. So if you want to lessen the particles that is visible to your clip, you just have to drag the cursor to your left according to the need of your video. Okay, so you just have to drag this slowly so you'd be able to determine the correct position of your cursor. And now let's talk about the fade. So it makes the colors in the video wash out or faded. So here is an example of the faded one and the original. So you can see the huge difference of the two. So to do that, all you have to do is to drag the cursor to your right. So the more you drag the cursor to right, the faded the video will become. So just drag the cursor slowly so you'd be able to determine the perfect fade for your video. Okay, you can see the fade effects of the video. So after that, you just have to save your changes. So let me adjust this just a little bit so you'd be able to see the difference. Okay, so now that we are done talking about the fade, let us proceed to the vignette. So vignette will let you make the corners shadowed or highlighted. So here is an example comparison of the two. So we have here the dark effect and of course the bright effect. So here, let's proceed to the dark effect first. So when you drag the cursor to your right, the corner of the video will become darker. Okay, so you can see this vignette effect right here. So when you go to your left, then it will be the opposite of your right side. It will make the corner of your video brighter. Okay, so if you want to make the corner of your video darker, then go to right. And if you want to make the corner of your video brighter, so just go to left. Okay, so I think it is best if you're creating a short video film about horror movies, then you can use the vignette accordingly since you got the dark effects, which is very perfect for short horror films. So now that we are done talking about those important effects, now I am going to show you a demonstration from the very beginning until to the end on how I created this color grading. So the left side is the original and the right side is the result of the color grading. So let me show you a demonstration from the very beginning and how I did it. So first is you have to export the video or the clip that you want to edit and drag the video right here. Now click on the clip so you'd be able to see these options right here. And then you just have to click on the adjustment. Okay, you just have to scroll down so you can see now the temperature, the hue, and the saturation. So let's start editing the temperature right here. So you could adjust the video or the color of your video accordingly. So for me, I want this video to be colorful as possible. So I will then just have to drag the cursor to the left or to the right so you'd be able to see the differences of the both sides. Okay, so maybe this one would do. Okay, so let me just drag this right here. And for the U, let me adjust this just a little bit because I think I don't need it that much. Okay, so after that, let's proceed to the saturation. So you just have to keep on adjusting the cursor. And here for the saturation, so I want this clip to be vibrant as possible. So let me just drag this to this area. Okay, so now that you have done adjusting your temperature, the hue, and the saturation, you'll be able to see the numbers of your adjustments. Okay, so after that, let's proceed to the lightness. So for the brightness, maybe I want this video to have a bright effect. So let me just drag this just a little bit to my right. So I would not put too much brightness in this video right here. Okay, maybe 6 will do. And for the contrast, let me adjust this to my right and left to see the difference of the two. And then I'll try to move the highlight and the illumination to see the difference. Okay, so maybe the contrast should be here. And if I adjust the illumination, you can see the difference. So I think it's much better to put the contrast to the right, but maybe just a little bit. Okay, and let's proceed to the highlight. Okay, so let us adjust it to the opposite direction to be able to see the differences. And go ahead and drag the cursor of the shadow. So maybe I want this to have a dark shadow since I want the flowers to be the highlight of this clip. So let's go to the illumination. Maybe I don't need that much of the illumination. Maybe just a little bit of the negative effects of the illumination. So now let us try to play the video. And as you can see, I have achieved the color that I want. Okay, so now let's proceed to the effects. So we have the sharpen, the particles, the fade, and the vignette. So for the sharpen, maybe I want this video to stay smooth as possible. So maybe I will then just have to adjust the sharpen just a little bit to my right to maintain the smoothness of the video of the flowers. Okay, so after that, let's go to the particles. So here, when I drag the cursor all the way to the right, you can see that the particles are very obvious, and I don't want that since I want this video to stay smooth as possible. So I will then just have to drag the cursor back to the original position and just a little bit to the right. So the smoothness will stay as it is, but it has a little bit of particles. Okay, so now that we have done that, let's go to the fade section. So you can see the numbers of the sharpen and the particles are the same. And here in the fade section, when you drag the cursor all the way to your right, the color of the video will fade. So I don't want that because I want the video to be colorful as possible. So maybe just a little bit of a fade effects for this one. And let's proceed to the vignette. So I want the video to have a dark corners since I wanted to highlight the flowers of the clip. So maybe I will then just have to adjust the vignette just a little bit, and I don't want to have the dark corners very obvious. And when you try to play the video, you can see the huge difference of the original clip. Okay, so now that we have done that, let's go to the HSL. So here we can now use the different colors where we can do the technique to do the color grading. So for the first one, I think I don't need this much, okay, for the color red, since the clip itself has an orange color, a yellow color, green, and blue. So the other colors would not be applied much in this clip. So you have to consider the color of your video before you can go ahead and use the technique for HSL. So let us try to adjust the color of the orange for you and the saturation. So since I want the color of this video to stay vibrant as possible, so let me just drag the cursor to the right of the saturation. And after that, let's go to the brightness. So maybe just a little bit of brightness for the color orange would do. Okay, or let's proceed to the darker side. So I think it's better. Let's go to the yellow. So same and the orange, you just have to adjust the hue, the saturation, and the brightness. So here we can see that it has a green side when you go to the hue. So the more you go to your right, the green effects or the green color of the video will be highlighted. So let me just adjust everything accordingly right here. So you can see the hue has a 10 scale, saturation is -20, and for the brightness maybe 15 would do, or maybe 10 or 7. Okay, let's go with 7. Now let's proceed to the green color. Okay, now we highlight the branches of the flower. So the more you go to your right, then the more blue it will get. So maybe just a little bit to stay the green color of the clip. Okay, for the saturation, maybe just a little bit. And for the brightness, maybe I want the green to have a dark color for this section. So now let's proceed to the sky. So it will highlight the sky because it has the color blue. So I don't want the sky to be violet. So let me adjust this just a little bit right here, the saturation, or I will leave it as it is. Okay, so you can determine the perfect color grading of your video if you adjust these three. Okay, so you just have to determine the perfect color for your sky right here. So let me just do this just a little bit. Okay, so you just have to drag the cursor. So this one right here is that you just have to do an experimentation to determine the perfect color grading for your background, especially when it comes to your sky. Okay, I think this one is better. So let's proceed to the next one. So since as you can see in the video, there's not much violet color, so I think it doesn't matter if we move the hue, saturation, and brightness for this one right here. But if you have a maybe a flower that has a color violet or magenta, Then when you go to this section right here, then when you adjust the hue, saturation, and brightness, it will give a huge change in your video. Okay, so now that we have done that, let us now proceed and play the final output. Okay, so I think this one is better. Now let me show you the original and the result. And finally, you can now see the huge difference of the original and the result video clip. So you have to take note that in color grading, it will really matter on the video that you are trying to edit. So remember, guys, in color grading, you can use colors to create specific modes and feelings in the viewer. So that is exactly what movies do. So when you're color grading, you want to think more than just making the colors look pretty. You want to think about the feelings, the emotions, and the mode that you want to evoke in your viewer. So you can see here the four modes examples of the video that I have created. Okay, so that's a wrap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more quick how-to videos next time. Adios!